We're talking to Dr. LMadu, and the topic is the strategic implications of the Horn of Africa. And of course, Dr. LMadu has given us some excellent information concerning some of the real problems dealing with this particular section of Africa and how these problems are related all across the continent. And unless some solution, Dr. LMadu, can be found, I would imagine, then we will never be able to solve the problems of famine, starvation, and some of the other problems that simply plague the Horn. Is that what we're saying? Let's continue our conversation in reference to that.
Yeah, well, you know, for example, Somalia exports currently, mostly its exports now comprise of bananas and livestock, since whatever was left of the economy before has been completely destroyed by the civil war. I take, for example, Ethiopia. 80% of Ethiopia's income comes from coffee, which was mortgaged to the Soviet Union by the Mengistu regime in order to receive billions of dollars in arms to fight the Eritrean and internal insurrection. Djibouti hardly exports anything apart from livestock. Most of its income comes from the railway, from Addis Ababa to Djibouti, which it charges, and also from tourism. Eritrea hardly exports anything either. After 1998-99 war, the economy is in shambles. The government of Eritrea rejects foreign aid, saying it can do without it, but experience has shown that it couldn't. So Sudan, is a little bit different because of the influx of oil revenue. So that's very important. The economic dependency of the Horn of Africa, is so much that without foreign aid, most of the economies will collapse completely.
Well, Dr. LMadu, since it seems that many of these problems can be said to go back to colonialism, it would seem to me that some of these former colonial countries would feel that they had some kind of responsibility. Is there any kind of forum whereby they can deal with this, or is there anything that you can do to bring them into this, a solution to this, these questions that are on the Horn?
Well, that would be very difficult to do. If you talk about irredentist ambitions, the AU African Union Charter, talks about the inviolability of frontiers. The United Nations Charter also talks about the inviolability of frontiers. Now, if a foreign government, starts saying, well, the Somali government who want you to forget about the other Somalis in Ethiopia or in Kenya, then they will be accused of interfering in the internal affairs of another sovereign country. You see, that's the problem. But at the same time, those countries will turn around and ask for aid, but they wouldn't want to take care, solving their own internal problems when they're advised to. And that's the problem. They shout, interference in their affairs, but at the same time, they turn around and ask you for money, just like you said a few minutes ago. Why should the U.S. be pumping money into these countries, when they're not listening on how to bring their own people together to solve their internal problems? Most of those problems are solvable, but the thing is that the leaders themselves are so corrupt that they're interested in keeping, control of their respective countries.
At any cost.
At any cost. Exploit the ethnic and racial and the religious sentiments of their people for their own advantage. That's what you see all over the continent.
Well, now, what do you see as some of the possible solutions in terms of what goes on there, Dr. LMadu?
Well, I think first of all, most of those countries should not receive any grants or loans from international institutions unless they make far-reaching reforms in their own economic and political systems. That's the only way to bring some of them to listen. For example, some of the French African countries, about almost 80–70% of their income comes from France. A country like Swaziland gets almost 80% of its income from foreign donations now. So some of those countries can be made to listen, if they would implement reforms in their country before, getting assistance from the United States or the United Nations.
And so it's sort of a bleak prospect in a real sense of ever making any real change on the Horn. Is that what we're saying here? I mean, now you talk about Kenya, What about the Kenyan election? You know, Kenya, I think, has a reputation of being one of the four most states in East Africa that has done things in terms of democracy and et cetera, et cetera. But we see some of the problems in Kenya now that tend to indicate that somebody said that if a regime has been in power for 8, 10, 12, 15 years, then there's no prospect of having any kind of democracy. Speak to that. I mean, how is that? And I mean, it's so sad that it's humorous in a real sense.
That's correct. That's correct. Well, I think in a way Kenya might be an exception to a lot of the countries in the Horn. Kenya has done well in terms of stability, political stability, and that has worked in its favor insofar as economy is concerned. You know, several international organizations, the UN and all that, have headquarters in Kenya. You know, Nairobi is one of the most bustling cities in Africa and the world, really. You know, so in a way, they've done well by having regular elections, unlike their neighbors and others. You know, since Kenya became a republic, you know, in '64, elections have been held on time constantly, even though, you know, people will say 90% of it have been rigged.
Okay.
You know, but there has been elections. There's a functioning parliament that has been, you know, that has been in operation since independence. There's never been a coup in Kenya, even though one was attempted in 1982 by Air Force officers, which was quickly crushed. Now you come to the last election, and people were surprised at the reaction, you know, of the electorate after the elections were announced. You know, people started burning down houses and demonstrating. There's no surprise to what happened because it's been in the making for decades. In 1964, when Kenya became in a republic, there were two parties. You know, the Kenya African Democratic Union, based in the coastal, you know, cities of the country, and also the Kenya African Nationalist Union, you know. So what happened, the difference between the two was that the KADU, the Kenya African Democratic Union, was supported by most of the minority ethnic groups in Kenya because they wanted federalism instead of a central authority because of their ethnic status, so that they could have autonomy in the areas. The Kenya African Nationalist Union, headed by Jomo Kenyatta, said, no, we want, you know, a central authority government, and was supported by a majority of the Kikuyus and Luos and some others. So the KANU has been in power since then. And what happened was that through KANU, the Kikuyu ethnic group, which is about 20% of the population, has had a disproportionate representation, you know, in the government and the economy, etc., etc., to the resentment of the other ethnic groups, particularly the Luo ethnic group.
Okay.
In Kenya, 5 ethnic groups predominate: the Kikuyu, the Luo, the Kalenjin, the Lua, and the Kamba. These 5 ethnic groups make up 70% of the population, with the Kikuyu about 20%, the Luo about 15%, and the Kalenjin about 10%. The last president before this was a Kalenjin, you know, Daniel Arap Moi, who stayed in power for almost 20 years. The current president, Mwai Kibaki, is Kikuyu.
Okay.
See, for long, the Kikuyu political class and the Luo political class have been struggling for power. The first vice president under Kenyatta was Ojinga Odinga, the father of the current, you know, the man who supposedly won this, Raila Odinga. He was implicated in that 1982 coup. His father fell out with Kenyatta over ideology, and his father was jailed. So he is Luo. So there has been a struggle for power between the Luo political establishment and the Kikuyu.
And Dr. Madu, as we forced to call this to an end, but it all boils down to the fact that the people in Africa and on the Horn of Africa are suffering primarily through the inability of the leaders to make some decisions in reference to how they wish to run their governments, and et cetera. And so I want to thank you for bringing that information by to us, Dr. Madu, and I think we all have a better understanding in terms of what is going on the Horn. And I think the United States, within the framework of the kind of information that you're giving here, can also make better choices in terms of who it wishes to support in these particular areas.
Absolutely.
And certainly I want to thank you for bringing us that information. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.